Heyo peeps, welcome to NASRS at Silverstone. It's been a little while now since the season actually finished, but I put a couple videos together as the season was going along. Figured it'd be fun to make some content out of these, kind of get a look and an insight into how my sim racing journey started. Huge prop to NASRS, by the way, for an awesome season they put together. Really enjoyed it, and it all kicked off here at Silverstone in the rookies. As you can probably expect, it's not going to be the cleanest start in the world out here on the track with a bunch of fellow rookies, but it was a great learning ground for all of us.
Car on the right. Clear on
We
the
keep
right.
an eye on the Lexus on the inside. We look onto the camera, as you can see one of the McLarens go off into the fields. I was lucky enough to be able to make it through the first set of corners, but I'm under a lot of pressure. The McLaren from Rouge putting me under a lot of pressure. Unfortunately for him, he's not in a
Clear
Lexus,
on the right.
so that straight line speed's going to let him down quite a bit. In the long run, he tries to get a really good run around the outside, but unfortunately that's where I'm headed to. As far as I can tell, he wasn't alongside. He ends up going wide, and I kind of had this habit of finding a lot of space behind me. In most of my races, I was normally chasing somebody else rather than having somebody chase me, but in this race at Silverstone especially, this might have been the exception. That McLaren, as we may see, will come back quite a few times. But luckily for us, no crazy amounts of chaos were mostly avoided on this lap one. But if we go back and take a look at how that McLaren managed to go off the track, there's Rouge, a little bit of contact, looked like it was one of the Ferraris. He goes off wide. As you can see, most of the cars on the field were able to make it through the first set of turns without too many issues.
The pit is now open.
Back into the live racing now. Following Duvier. Hopefully I'm not butchering his name too much, but everyone butchers my last name, so I figure it's a little fair for me to screw everyone else's up occasionally without getting in too much trouble. Checking the top left corner, we can see Larry going a little wide. If I remember, that was Larry Foster, one of the awesome coaches for NASRS. I was curious why he was so far out wide when I was coming back here, and thank goodness for me at least, he backed out a little bit coming into the S's, Maggots and Beckett's. We gave each other a lot of space, both of us were pretty tentative, which, especially for my first real league race, was definitely going to be smart of a decision on his end. A little bit of trouble getting out of turn one was common. I felt it a lot. I'm pretty sure just about everyone in this race noticed it. The other place I had a lot of difficulty was coming up to this left-hander. I always felt like I either broke way too early and overslowed, like it kind of felt here, or I just hugely overshoot the corner. But either way, there's a lot of time on this track. 65-minute race to be able to figure out how to approach these corners. And as I was saying, we're pretty far after this race in person at the moment. Season has ended, so I definitely don't remember these too much, so it's kind of fun to go back and see how I progressed throughout the NASRS season. Jumping forward a good bit, you can see not too much has changed.
Gaining on the car ahead.
We're just kind of sitting with this Lexus here, trying to hit the apexes through these corners. Pretty decent run on this one, but there's not a lot of places you can go into Maggots and Beckett's. The Delta's liking that though. Relatively commonly I will get really aggressive over some of the curbs here, but trying to get a really good exit wasn't the easiest thing. I would notice that my delta would disappear a little bit near the end of Maggots and Baggots, but we gained a lot of it back on the exit. Getting a little bit of pull through the straight too. Much appreciated. And once again, not too much going on. Hitting about 2:02 on that lap. Pretty similar times to a lot of people in the area. As you can see though, we got a really good range of drivers showing up for this rookie season. It sounded like in the past there were a lot higher participation numbers, but that doesn't mean that we missed out on some really good competition. I'm getting a pretty good run here on Duvier. But unfortunately the Lexus just, man, really good at a straight line. I've tried and fake to the inside a little bit, fake him out, and of course it does actually kind of work. Oh, he catches the saves the slide, but it takes him wide with the snapback. And the mind game's already starting to work. And there we go, just like I said before, overshooting that corner all the time, but the pass is made. I'm in the clear, have a bit of a gap, so we've got space to work now. Time to see if we can make a little bit more progress. As I was saying though, very good field here for the rookies, and all of a sudden we have not as much of a field as one of the drivers has suddenly disappeared from in front of me. And you'll see in the top left corner we went from 27 to 26 drivers. Picking it back up, coming out of turn 1. We'll see eventually that while there's some pretty good competition here in about that middle to front pack, there's a very wide range of ability and people along their journey. So we will end up running into some drivers a lap down eventually, which definitely provides a lot of extra interesting interactions in these races. Considering that for a 65-minute race, they do get strung out just a little bit. Trying to save a little bit of a slide there. Here's Frankie Williams up ahead. Really impressive driver, has a lot of dedication. See him in the house of practice all the time. He's very dedicated to making sure he's got his car under control. We're going to see if we can make our way by. Slow this down coming to this corner. Looks like we get by alright, but looking back in the rear view, he's all the way off the track. Hopefully that wasn't me that pushed him wide. I feel like we had plenty of room there, so hopefully I didn't spook him too much. But life goes on. We continue.
Yellow flag in sector 2. Gaining on the car ahead in sector 3. There's a car leaving the pit lane, watch out.
Luckily, despite some drivers getting some penalties, doesn't end up catching us out, coming out of the pits. Still keeping most of the times looking relatively consistent. Definitely think I could do better now looking at those 202s. I did a bit of an endurance race a little while back. Managed to get a couple sub 2s, so I'm very happy with that progress, but I was also in a McLaren with a pretty serious setup on it. Probably gave me some time, but looking behind us, we've got Rouge back once again in that McLaren. Obviously an incredibly quick driver. Made up a ton of ground in order to get back here. A little bit of difficulty as I'm coming out of that corner. He decides not to dive to the inside. He's getting held up for quite a while, but once again, the commonality here is that Lexus straight line speed. He's got a really, really fine, optimal timing to be able to attack properly here. And I'm going to go ahead and defend the inside, trail brake into the corner, make sure I hug that curb as much as I can. Not giving too many openings, and oh my word. Sniff of death right there. Looks like we have different lines through that long slow turn. Almost brought us together. Even with that mistake, he's rocking a low 202, much quicker than I ran. And despite a little bit of a gap opening up at the end of the lap, we come to the next, and he's still there. He is right on me once again. I'm sliding a little bit through the left-hander, and wait a minute, Rush is gone. I wasn't too focused on my own driving, but looking up, and he's just not there anymore. Yellow flag on the left side of the track, and he has lost at least 2, if not 3, looks like maybe even more positions as he disappears from the mini-map. So we are safe by trying to come through Maggots and Beckett's. Another one of the lapped cars. Got a decent run. But luckily a lot of our league members were relatively gracious about not fighting too much. Had a bit of a habit of lifting on the straights, which is a little bit overkill, but definitely kept us all a lot safer and didn't impede the drivers fighting for the top position, so I appreciate it by far. I also didn't want to contact them. Now, checking the pit UI,
There's a slow car ahead.
definitely is a difficulty for me. Trying to figure out how to manage the fuel and tire plans and making sure to not speed into the pit entry. Definitely not very efficient on this, and it's still absolutely something I need to work on. We come out losing a bit of time, but no biggie. Positioning wise, we're still looking okay, and I'm looking at Larry Foster on the relative board. One of the coaches in NASRS that helped me quite a bit figure out how to begin my driving style, but low, very low speed from Frasha. And squeezy by on the left side. I remember the hole in my stomach as I was going wide there. Very appreciative of Frasha's ability to keep the car under control, and for that radar pop-up, that it's probably the thing that let him know I was on the outside, because realistically that is not where I wanted to be. I believe I threw this in here for one of my best laps on the track of this race. Top right corner, you can kind of see the lines a little bit better from that chase cam if you feel like taking a look. Maggots and Beckett's braking near the end of the red sausage on the left, basically going down a gear through each of these corners. Sometimes I kept third through here, sometimes second, depending on how I was feeling. But getting a pretty dang good run, dropping somewhere in the realm of 3.5 tenths so far. The braking point and the right-hander here was also one of the more difficult corners for me. A little bit of a late apex, but you can also send it pretty hard because you get a lot of room on that runoff. We talked about this, braking at the start of the curb on the right side. Managed to get that pretty well for once, actually trailing into the left pretty efficiently. And just kind of running it out through the next set of corners. Angle a little bit to the left, brake near the start of the green, but just a dab on the brakes and then power it out. Hugging the curb on the left as tight as we can, braking just a bit past the start of the curb on the left. Late apex here. And then a similar story, trying to late apex this pretty well. Looks like I hit the apex a little too early. Nothing too shabby. A little bit of a blind corner there, and the Lexus made it a little bit difficult. I've changed my camera settings as of late so that I'm a lot closer to that front dash. Braking point here kind of varied for me depending on how I was feeling. Using a marker board on the right side and just trying to V-angle this corner just a bit. Then power out. Cut a ton of the curb on the right coming up here. power through for a 201.5.
Into the car ahead in sector.
Definitely nothing super impressive, and I believe I actually hit a quicker lap near the end. But as you can see, despite throwing down a pretty good time for me, Larry Foster dropped the gap from about 4.5 seconds back. He's now 2.7. I'm just trying to put the power down as much as possible to make sure he doesn't catch up to me. And a bit of a battle for the driver's lap down coming on here. So one of the great things about NASRS League is that even if you aren't up there with some of the top dogs, there are plenty of people to fight with, and you will find great battles at just about any pace. Keep a close eye on what's going to happen to the 3 drivers ahead as they come through the set of double hairpins. Looks like I made up quite a bit of time, hitting a very good late apex on that. Trying to get the power down early once again. Not too worried about passing right now. I've still got a bit of a gap to the driver ahead. We'll see what happens. Come into the left-hander. Oh, we got a spin. He's going to save it a little bit, but now we've got a 3-wide situation possibility, and thankfully the radar finally pops up and tells me that the driver on my right is not relevant anymore. And thank goodness I was able to get through that. I was worried we were about to go 3 wide into a slow, long right-hander. Even if it lost me a bit of time, no worries at all, as it made things very interesting. Another fastest lap, but from what I remember, just about no different time-wise from the one we saw earlier. But we are coming on to the last lap now. And from what I remember, this was an absolute blast. Every race with NASRS has been a joy. But man, sim racing is one of the most stressful things that I think I've done, and it is a just absolute amazing time, having your heart beating a million miles a second just because you're trying to go through a corner too wide. Oh, we look like we're losing a car ahead. Gotta make sure to dodge. Now, looking back, I cannot believe I did not let off the gas at least a little bit harder. I knew he was coming back left, and I knew I was going to make it, but good lord, no reason to make it back close. Got Roosh back behind me, and if I screw up too much and having contact with another driver, I might not hold my position. But luckily we make it through. Bino ahead. We'll see if we can get by him. I think I remember saying to myself I wanted to catch him and get one more pass done, even though it's maybe not a true pass because he's not supposed to fight me being blue flagged. I was definitely gunning to catch up to him. I think he looked to the inside just to see if I was going to be gaining fast enough to warrant an overtake attempt. Pretty happy with my line through that corner. It was a bit of a struggle for quite a while. Oh, and I go off a little too wide, catch it just barely. Looks like we're not going to make this overtake happen, but no harm. It was fun getting Chase Bino down at the end. And we're looking pretty good. You can see the results popping up. Dakota Botello, one of the fastest drivers in the rookies. Looking forward to racing against him next season. It was a blast. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next one.